The Mavericks fall in disappointing fashion on the road to the Charlotte Hornets despite Kyrie Irving's big day. We'll break it all down coming up next on the Dlls MAVS postgame show. Hey, what's up, DLS Mavs Nation? It's your man, Kevin Gray, alongside Mavericks beat writer Tim Cato, Mavericks analyst Bobby Carell, and our national NBA insider, Marc Stein. We, of course, are DLS Mavs. We really appreciate you joining us here on DLS Sports. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe while you are here as well. Unfortunately, the Mavericks fall to the Charlotte Hornets on the road, 110-105 to drop to 23-20 on the season, despite Kyrie Irving having 33 points, including 14 in the fourth quarter. Daniel Gafford with a career-high 31 points in the losing effort. The Hornets had 6 guys in double figures, led by LaMelo Ball, who had 23 points in the win. We will break it all down here for you over the course of the next hour. Make sure you let us know in the chat how you're feeling about today's game as the Mavericks fall on the road to Charlotte as they get ready to come home to take on the Minnesota Timberwolves here in a couple of days. Gentlemen, on what was a disappointing afternoon for the Dallas Mavericks on the road coming into today's game. They had won their previous 16 of 21 games in Charlotte, but Tim not able to get it done today, even being shorthanded.
As far as it goes to me, you have my green light to blame anyone, everything, any aspect for Dallas continuing to lose games like this. It's not just that they lost to the Charlotte Hornets. It's not just the way they lost. It is a continued, consistent pattern of dropping games that are winnable against worse teams. The same problems pop up every time in the fourth quarters. Is it the players? Is it the coaching? Is it the, decisions of who to bring onto this team? I don't care at this point. Whoever you guys want to say, I think you have merit. There is a lot of, just frustrations and fault to go around. And is it over? No. Is it at a... is it time to just completely embrace doomerism? I don't think that's where we are, but this is frustrating. You should be frustrated. And I'm just saying, I'm not pushing back. Whatever you think is at fault. If you think Kyrie Irving, you're wrong, but I'm not going to push back at this point. Maybe he should have hit a few more shots. I don't care. What I'm saying is that, you have a right to be frustrated. This team should not continue to be finding themselves in the spot.
This is worse than the New Orleans game. At least with the New Orleans game, you could pin it on the horrible call at the end. I mean,
sure.
This is just like with the schedule in front of them this week. They knew they had to win this game.
Yeah,
there's going to be an possible urgency issue because look, it was the earliest tip. Mark Follow had the great stat on the broadcast that online game start times only go back to the year 2000, but that is 25 years. In 25 years, he only found one other game that started at noon Eastern. So, this was the earliest tip-off ever, but the Mavs have been off since Friday night, since getting their second win this season against Oklahoma City. They're the only team in the league that can make that claim. This was the most winnable game of the week. This was the must-win game of the week. And yeah, I mean, I
think with an early start, it's one thing to sleepwalk your way through the first quarter. It's another thing to sleepwalk your way through the last 6 minutes. And that's really what it looked like today. I mean, it was in the fourth quarter, they were 5 of 13 on shots in the paint, 2 of 7 on second chance shots. PJ Washington was 2 of 7 from the field in the fourth quarter. And he was like, but I'm going to make the next one. Watch this. A complete multifaceted collapse. The Hornets had 9 second chance points in the fourth quarter. LaMelo Ball was 0 for 5 from the field in the fourth quarter, and the Hornets won. Not only did they win, they outscored the Mavs by 6.
Mm-hmm.
They wasted a 14-point quarter from Kyrie.
And the best game of Daniel Gafford's life.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, just
31.
Just want to throw that in.
Complete unadulterated meltdown down the stretch of this game. Very, very, very disappointing. I would say it's way worse than New Orleans, just because, I mean, you have Kyrie going and Kyrie's cooking, and it's not the second night of a back-to-back. You've had 2 days off. Like, it's just brutal all around. Just really, really brutal.
Kyrie went on a 11-0 run, and then
First 11-0 run.
Well, he scored 11 straight. I don't know if it was 11-0.
It was 11-2, but he
Yeah.
scored 11 straight, and then didn't take a shot for 3 minutes. Daniel Gafford had 27 going
Get
into
him
the
the ball.
fourth, scored a tip dunk with about 2 minutes left.
Mm-hmm.
And then, look, Daniel Gafford, he's not a guard. He's not a perimeter-based offensive player. You can't just literally just like throw the ball and say, okay, go to work. But Dallas spent 3/4 of this game with a concerted effort to find him, to get him
Dump
the
it
ball.
into Gafford, yes.
Yeah, and just to not be able to do that, for every offensive set to drag, for they're trying to get Kyrie off the ball to set up, to set him up somewhere inside the 3-point arc, and they would run like 20 seconds off the shot clock, trying and failing to get the ball to him. Is that the player's fault? Is that the coaching fault? Whatever you want to call it. I at this point, it's just, this can't keep happening.
31-15-7, and they didn't win. If we would have told you that before, Gafford's going to throw up 31-15-7.
Yeah.
You never would have thought Dallas loses this
especially
game.
when you get another 34 points from Kyrie Irving. I mean, for the second time in less than a week, Daniel Gafford has set a career high in terms of points. He was pretty decent on the defensive end as well in terms of some of the block shots. But I think for me,
5 blocks before he had a foul today.
yeah, like he was pretty good on both ends of the floor today and gave them a lot in terms of the energy and presence. At one point, he had missed a bucket and then had a chase down block on the other end. Like Daniel Gafford, I thought, brought the energy and effort on both ends of the floor. But what's disappointing about today's loss is that you come off the win against the Oklahoma City Thunder. You have a few days off, and you have an opportunity to get a game that you have to get, knowing you've got Minnesota, you've got OKC, and Boston in your next 3 games. And for this game to not go your way, especially when not only you get the performances from Gafford and Irving, but P.J. Washington, I got to bring this to the doorstep of P.J. Washington today, because as the guy who is the P.J. Washington propaganda leader of the machine around here.
Of the whole city. Of the whole city, maybe.
Either way, he was awful and made me look like a fool today, because the defense was at an all-time low. The amount of, if he bites on one more pump fake from either Cody Martin or Nick Smith Jr., who had a season-high 19 points today, it was just not a great performance at all from PJ. And they needed someone else aside from Gafford and Irving to be able to come along and provide something offensively, and Washington simply could not provide that.
I mean, PJ didn't make a basket last year in his return to Charlotte. So you would have thought, I think Mavs fans were probably bracing for it. Man, Josh Green's going to have a great game today. That didn't happen, but you would have really expected PJ to bounce back on his second game as a visitor in Charlotte with something special.
Well, he tried. He took 15 shots,
And it did not
unfortunately.
happen.
I thought the key stretch of the game came with 4 minutes and 20 seconds left.
Nice.
Gafford gets a block. Thank you. Gafford gets a block on Mark Williams. Spectacular block in transition.
Yes.
Josh Green gets the rebound. Gafford is challenging all these shots. We said on the pregame, everybody needs to rebound.
Everybody
and I
across the
said,
boards.
watch out for Josh Green especially. He played there.
Yeah.
You all know him. No one was boxing out the whole dang game. It was tragic. Green comes away with the rebound. Kick it out to Nick Smith Jr., who had a season-high 19 points, and he drains another 3 to put them up 3. Mavs come down the floor. PJ calls his own number, misses, gets his own rebound, misses, gets his own. Gafford gets the rebound, or PJ gets the rebound. Ball comes to PJ, misses. Gafford gets the rebound, misses. 0 for 4 at the rim. That's a huge, massive, super massive black hole of a swing.
Yeah.
Right? From blocking a dunk to allowing a 3 to missing 4 layups in a row. Like, I can't even tabulate the number of points of a swing.
It was just this weekend that Nick Smith Jr. made his first ever appearance as a mention on my Substack, when my twice-a-week contributor, Jake Fisher, wrote in his notebook that there's a belief around the league that Charlotte's actually open to discussing potential Nick Smith Jr. trades. What happens?
You had a showcase game today.
5 threes. Dallas as a team has 6.
Brutal.
Yeah, the Mavericks go 6 of 32 from downtown, boys and girls. That is 18.8% from the three-point line. Bobby, you said it during the pregame show as well. Strange things can happen during early start times, whether it be for the road team or for the home team. Strange thing happened today for Charlotte. They actually hit threes. Coming into today's game, Charlotte was the 6th worst team in the NBA in terms of three-point percentage. They go 44% from downtown, going 17 of 39 from distance today. LaMelo Ball went 5 of 7 from downtown in the first half alone to be able to help pace the Charlotte Hornets in this game. But just an all-around disappointing game. I see y'all in the chat getting after PJ Washington, getting after Jason Kidd, getting after Klay Thompson. As Tim said at the beginning of this show, anyone you want to bring this to the doorstep to, they can get it today, because to fall to the Hornets by 5 on the road, knowing the kind of week you have coming up, is not a great way to start.
Super chat alert.
We got a
super chat alert.
Yeah, I was going to say, we're going to get to the super chat here. Let's go ahead and bring that up here, Tanner, from Martin the Polar Bear.
Thank you, Martin, the polar bear.
Apropos today, because it is frigid here in Dallas.
So do we need him to drop his location, or can we just assume Antarctica?
I don't know.
Yeah, no, I would like to know. I always want to know the location.
Could be the
I'm
North
just saying,
Pole.
like
Martin the
you're
Polar
right.
Bear, please
It could
please
be-
give us some clues on your
could be
location.
Siberia. Could be the Siberian tundra.
Are you drinking a Coca-Cola?
Drop
Martin
the
Polar Bear?
coordinates.
He says, quote, can't keep calling us doomers if we're 25 and 31 at the All-Star break and you expect Luka to carry us after the break to a 20-6 record. Nico better not trade our 2025 first-round pick.
So that implies they're going 2-11. They're winning 2 of their next 13 games. I just don't think they're going to lose 2 of their next 13 games. And
I think they're going to win at least 2.
I mean, they
think
got
they're going to
Washington
win more than
one
2.
of those games. So.
and yes, I keep thinking they're going to win games like this.
Yeah.
And you know, I never discounted the fact that they can pull out some games. Like, yes, it was surprising they beat the Thunder, but you know, this team is capable of pulling some games out like this. It's just that I don't know. To me, losing this game is far more disappointing and making me, you know, just question stuff than beating Oklahoma City is. Like, these are the games that your variance shouldn't be this high. And yes, if Quentin Grimes or Derek Lively play in this game, you know, players who are on the verge of coming back, maybe even if Jaden Hardy plays in this game, you win the game. It's just, it can't keep happening. It can't be that, you know, you lose to Charlotte and New Orleans and you blow the lead in the fourth quarter against Denver and you lose to a Memphis team that is just as banged up at you as in the backcourt, and you lose to, you know, Portland, and just the way that you go about your business planning to play in these games. It just, it's if any one of those, you can look at any one of those games and say it was frustrating and they lost, but there was reasons for it. It can't be all of these, and it can't be the same sort of offense and the same sort of issues that crop up in every game.
Okay, I'm glad you said that, because we're going to bring something up coming up next week that I think a lot of folks in the chat are feeling in terms of the lack of offensive or defensive adjustments, even based on who isn't or who isn't playing, that might be needed brought to the doorstep of one Jason Kidd. But we will discuss more of that coming up next here on the Dallas Mavs post-game show. We'll get into the turning point in this game, and a little bit later on, we'll be joined by WFAA Channel 8's Jonah Javad here on the program. All that and more coming up next year on the Dallas Mavs post-game show. But it is bowl season. We are coming to a close in the college football season tonight with the national title game between Notre Dame and the Ohio State. The winner will be crowned national champion for this college football season. Afterwards, though, you got the East-West Shrine Bowl taking place deep in the heart of Texas on January 30th at AT&T Stadium, the 100th edition of the East-West Shrine Bowl this year. Since 1925, the game has benefited Shriners Children's and its mission to provide innovative pediatric specialty care to improve and transform the lives of children. You can see some of the nation's top college football players in this head-to-head competition ahead of the NFL draft coming up in April. College football, some of the largest names in the game have played in this game in the past, like Tom Brady and Lawrence Taylor. The East-West Shrine Bowl has served as a starting point for many noteworthy NFL careers, including 80 members of the Pro Football Hall of Fame and more than 200 members of the College Football Hall of Fame as well. Tickets start at just $20. Use code DLLS when purchasing 2 or more tickets to receive 50% off. Visit ShrineBowl.com today to buy your tickets for the 100th edition of the East West Shrine Bowl.
And if you know, visit their site. But Game Time is a great place to buy tickets for whatever event you're trying to go to. What I love most about sports games is just the memories that last with you, that stay with you. You know, for me, the first thing that comes to mind was it was a preseason tour of, I think, Juventus and Barcelona. I think, a lot more people listening to this will be attending perhaps American football than something like that. But like these moments, these events stick with you. And Game Time is here for you. They have a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes it getting tickets for events even easier. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code DLLS for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. But again, create an account and redeem code DLLS for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. What time is it?
Game time.
That was very poor.
Who?
Just don't tell the Mavs,
like the
please. No more.
More
Mavs game. No more Mavs games, please.
We appreciate you joining us here on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. After the Mavericks unfortunately fall 110-105 to the Charlotte Hornets, who dropped to 23-20 on the season, despite Kyrie Irving going for 33 points, had 14 in the fourth quarter. Daniel Gafford, massive game for him, setting a career high with 31 points. We'll get to the turning point of this game in just a little bit and what happened in the fourth quarter. But let's get to another super chat here on the Dallas Mavs postgame show. Shout out to Elliot with the $4.99.
Shout out, Elliot.
Quote, Klay is thinking the game way too much right now. He just needs to come off screens and let it fire, end quote.
Elliot Eitzman, a very loyal subscriber to the Stein line as well. Good to see him. Good to see him here with the super chat.
I agree with you, Elliot. It does look like Klay is thinking a lot. The turnover he had, I want to say it was it the fourth quarter or was it the third? I don't remember. He comes off a screen, rises kind of to shoot, and like doesn't quite leave his feet, but he passes it anyway to nobody, and it was a turnover, run out for a layup. That one was brutal. The three at the end, he pump faked. He pump fakes a lot out of open shots into contested ones. I don't know why. Maybe it's just a timing thing, rhythm. Maybe it could be confidence. Maybe it could be thinking. Maybe it could be he's not catching it clean. I don't know. But yeah, it doesn't always feel smooth and easy for Klay.
Yeah, the offense, not just for Klay, but in a lot of ways felt disjointed. I mean, let's fast forward to the fourth quarter, because I think one of the things for a lot of folks who are in the chat that are looking at in terms of not just the collapse in the last 5-6 minutes of the fourth quarter. I mean, Kyrie Irving at one point scored 13 straight points to give the Mavericks what was a 100-94 lead with 6:20 left. The Hornets were then able to go on an 11-2 run to lead 105-102 with 4 minutes left in the game after, again, a Nick Smith three-pointer. But I think in a lot of ways, I'm interested to get your guys' thoughts on this. We talk about how other teams can win games when they have been shorthanded. One of the teams that comes to mind is the Memphis Grizzlies. They've been going through injuries like crazy so far this year. The Orlando Magic, who have been going through difficult injuries themselves this year, have found ways to win games. You say, Kevin, well, Orlando plays in the putrid Eastern Conference. No harm, no foul there. I understand. But at the same time, there are certain teams that feels like have been able to overcome the injuries and win games. Mavericks were today missing Jaden Hardy, Dwight Powell, Quentin Grimes, Derek Lively II. But, Tim, at times it doesn't feel like the adjustments are made necessarily for this team to be able to overcome even the lack of personnel to win games like this, or the game against the Pelicans, sans the call that went against them. Other teams are finding ways to win, but the Mavericks seem like they're not finding ways to do that right now.
Yeah, frankly, this isn't – I don't think Jason Kidd, when I really look at this game and think, why did Dallas lose? In this game, he's not like even top 3 or top 4 to me.
Sure.
You know, it was the injuries. It was the fact that nobody could make a three. It's almost impossible to win with a 3-point disparity like Dallas had
Plus
against
33 on points from threes.
Yeah, like that is almost and it's so amplified because at the end of the game, Dallas came into the fourth quarter with a lead. The offense broke down again. In this game, I'm putting way more fault with Kyrie and Spencer both out there. I'm putting fault on Spencer and Dinwiddie. On not being able to initiate. Kyrie, when he is the only creator out there, he had a great game. He played 41 minutes. He's a warrior for that. He gave them their only chance, but maybe on a night like this, you need him to make a few more shots. I don't know. I mean, PJ Washington being so spacey defensively, especially on the perimeter, all those things come to mind as why Dallas lost this game. But I think if you look at the through lines of these losses, if you look at all of these losses, all of these miserable losses that felt like they were winnable as a whole, absolutely Jason Kidd is on the list of just not maximizing what this team is able to do, whether it's as simple as does Jason Kidd, who is what we think most of him, or what we think most highly of him is his ability to coach Luka and Kyrie. So maybe that is a chance where you have to step into the locker room and burn some cachet, whatever you want to call it, and say, you can't come back against Denver. You have to make your debut because it is likely you're not going to play both games. You have to make it against the team that we have a better chance to win. I think that there have been games where I thought the offensive execution was horrendous and more fixable than tonight. I mean, it's not like he could have played anybody else tonight. And at some point, Spencer Dinwiddie has to be better. Dallas has to, could they have looked for Daniel Gafford a little bit more? It clearly was an emphasis to start the game. I think that I don't know. I don't know if that's something that Jason Kidd has control over. I do think that, looking at the whole, yes, Jason Kidd has some blame. And what really comes back to me is the season they missed the playoffs. And what was the criticisms then? That he had a roster that was not very talented. That was not a talented roster around Luka and Kyrie, especially in the end of the year. But it was more talented than 11th in the Western Conference. And it doesn't matter when we're just assessing coaching performance. It doesn't matter that it worked out better. Dallas missed and ended up with Lively and, quite frankly, was a massively beneficial thing to their franchise development for that to happen. Jason Kidd did not adjust. He did not adjust, and he had a very specific style of playing. It's not that Dallas was going to be a good team that year, but I consistently thought throughout that run that Jason Kidd was not maximizing them, that he maximizes good teams and teams that are built the way that he wants them to be, and that maybe he doesn't do that, that he doesn't do that, that he didn't do that with a team that was not optimized for him, that was not as talented as it should be. And so it wasn't that he was directly at fault. The roster and the talent building that led to that was most at fault. But it does harken back to what's happening right now as this team goes through this massive injury crisis with players out every single night, multiple players out, multiple starters out every single night. It feels like, because I've seen from other teams, I've seen around the league, and I've seen from these players that there should be a little bit more to get from them, that there should be a little bit more competency at times. And again, when it's the fourth quarter, when it's the offense bogging down in the exact same ways, repeatedly, in the same games, in the same fourth quarter, that stands out to me as well, because this is something that Jason Kidd is saying in his post-game press conferences. The second time it happened, that this has been an issue. And once again, that's coming back. So it's just...
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating.
It's frustrating in a lot of ways, for sure.
And I can't not believe that there is a bit more to get out of these groups, even these limited groups, even while acknowledging how difficult it is when you're missing this many players.
They got outscored 51-18 at the three-point line today. How are we going to say that that's coaching?
That's what I said. That's literally what I said, Mark, though, right? I said tonight, that's by far the biggest thing.
It's just too easy to just every time they lose, he should be getting,
But that was my point. That's why I'm trying to compass this into not just the games recently, but also 2 seasons ago. Because I do agree, it's not fair to say, well, Jason Kidd, if he had coached better tonight, it would have been fixed.
Like Klay Thompson, we've talked about this a lot too. Look, he's got to make shots. That's why he's here, But he is number one on the list to me in terms of who misses Luka. And, again, Luka's out, so you got to deal with it, and you got to make shots. That is why he's here. That is always how he's going to be judged. But I don't know. I guess I don't see the through line. Like this is as bad a loss as there. This is
as bad as the Utah loss.
This is borderline Utah loss.
This is about as bad as the Utah.
And the Utah loss.
You forgot about the bell.
This is like, what is going on right now? Oh my God.
We haven't had the use the bell in quite some
Did you
time.
think you were playing safety in a flag
I
football game?
I felt like
That's
PJ
good
watching
call,
it for a
that's
second there.
That's good.
You can
Like,
count
whoa,
on me
man.
to. You can count on me to.
Oh,
I think
man.
it's like I think that the issue isn't necessarily maybe even specifically what happened today, because I agree if you go minus 33 on threes, odds are you're going to lose. Like it's a
But a
miracle.
team that was 6th worst in the NBA
No,
coming into the game.
but like Jason Kidd isn't like I bet that they're going to not shoot 43. I bet they're going to shoot 42% from 3 and we're going to win by 1. Like but when you do that, your margin gets even thinner than it already is, and so you have to overcome that in other ways. But it's like this pattern, right? Like the loss to New Orleans is different than this one. The loss in Utah is different than either of those. The loss to the Nuggets and to the Suns were different than either of those. But the common through line that I think a lot of fans are frustrated with, and this is from having streamed every day while working for the team for 2 or 3 years, is sometimes there's a lot of late game duds like this one. You know, the last few minutes, things just fall apart. And I would say generally, late in games, it really helps to have super high IQ, multi-skilled, multifaceted players. The Mavs right now, Kyrie's basketball IQ is in a different dimension than everybody else on the roster. And so it's just really tough for them to do all this sort of like, let's do
9
something about
players
talking
were
about it kind of
used
thing.
today. I think it's fair to say 2 of the 9 will come away from this feeling good about how they played.
Yeah, yeah.
And
no,
that's
for
it.
sure.
Yeah, that's
So
it.
it's like, so how do you overcome that?
I'll go 3. Omax, I thought played a pretty good game.
Not
today.
Omax.
I thought Omax.
Yeah, you're
was-
right, you're right.
You put in
You're right,
humans
you're right.
work
Yeah,
out
I
there.
thought Omax
8
was-
rebounds in 19 minutes.
Yeah.
But like he tried Kessler Edwards. Kessler Edwards has not made a shot yet as a Dallas Maverick.
I know.
Oh
I mean,
man, he
it's like
took 2
tough,
straight
man.
threes, and I was like, "Can we stop that?"
He
like
is-
we can stop that
He
now.
is like, they have their injury situation is such they again, like this. One of the most interesting things about the way this team was built was that when we started as DLS, I just remember how 6 guards, and I thought it was too much. And here they are in January. They are now past the midpoint of the season, 43 games into an 82-game schedule. As it stands right now, they don't have enough.
They have
They
2.
don't. They don't have
2
enough
guards
ball
today.
handling and playmaking and creation. They just don't have enough with
They
the
brought in
current
Spencer
state of the
Dinwiddie
team.
for a play to throw the ball to Kyrie Irving.
And he couldn't even do
They
that.
couldn't do that. Like,
even
that's
pass the ball.
That's how dire it is.
He
right
waited
now.
20 seconds to try an impossible pass, and it went out of bounds.
But I think that speaks to your point, Mark, about the amount of depth that we thought coming into this year and how right now they don't have it. And honestly, I don't know where it comes from.
Painful.
And I do think what we're truthfully seeing is that we are seeing frazzled, overworked players playing, even mentally playing too far above their role for far too long. I don't think
I think you're right, but I
Yeah.
think I actually thought that they would play like they would gain strength, being in this position for so long. But maybe you're right. Maybe it's just these guys are overtaxed with what they have to do.
And I remember that's
because we are starting to see it now with Orlando. Like Orlando stayed in 4th in the East for a long time. You look at the standings this morning. Orlando's down to 7th. They've even got Paolo Banchero back, and they've hit a rough patch. Like it's hard to go without your main guys for a long, long time.
And I think that's what I'm trying to remember when he said this, but that's what Jason Kidd said as well. That and then the team came out and they beat the Lakers and they beat Portland the following night or 2 nights later. And I remember both of those games feeling like the team was getting the most out of their raw. Look, maybe it's just the Lakers game especially. I thought that very specifically they knew what they were trying to do. They went out to maximize what that team, what that roster, what that group of players was capable of. Is the Portland game just results-oriented bias? Maybe. Maybe that's what it comes down to. The fact that while they, it was a 6-point game, but they beat Portland, that time, and they lost to New Orleans the next time, and so I don't think I would feel differently about New Orleans if they had won on that block. It would be on the goaltend. If the block had been a goaltend, I don't know how differently I would feel. I don't think that. But I mean, there's always going to be result-oriented bias, and it probably, of course, it's not going to feel as bad from a fan's perspective for you guys if they just have one more win mixed in there.
Can I close with a question real quick?
Yeah.
Sure. Solar Serenity says, you all got every excuse for Kidd. It's ridiculous. Solo, let me challenge you. You have every excuse for the players. It's ridiculous.
Coming up next year on the DLS Mavs post-game show, we will be joined by WFAA sports anchor Jonah Javad to get his thoughts and perspective on today's game. And a little bit later on, we'll dial up the Stein line with our national NBA insider Marc Stein with the latest when it comes to the Dallas Mavericks.
Trading for Giannis? Find out next.
We'll do that. We won't do that. We'll do that next. Coming up on the DLS Mavs post-game show.
Floors, baby. You know them. You love them. And most importantly, you need them. And you need them at the right price, conveniently. And with Empire Today, you get shop at home convenience, the right product for your needs, quick and professional installation, and a low price guarantee. What they leave out of their selection is just as important as what they put in their selection. They're not trying to overwhelm you. They're not trying to grift you. They're not trying to drag you into a big box store where they're going to make commish off your purchase. They're trying to sell you some garbage that they know you don't need, and you're saying yes or no to things that you don't even know what they would look like in your home. You get the virtual floor designer from Empire Today where you can see exactly what your floor will look like with exactly your lighting and exactly your decor. It's all done from the comfort of your own home. You could be in your jammies shopping for your new floor. But if you want to invite company over, you can schedule a free in-home estimate today. All listeners can receive a $350 off discount when they use the promo code DLLS. Restrictions apply. Again, promo code DLLS to save yourself some bucks. See EmpireToday.com/DLLS for details.
And when those friends come over to step onto those floors, they make sure you bring something to drink and have them bring it in a Rugged Road cooler. Rugged Road is dedicated to creating innovative and durable outdoor gear for adventurers who demand the best. Our products are designed with the highest quality materials and craftsmanship, ensuring they perform in the toughest conditions, whether you're on land or water. Rugged Road gear is built to accompany you on every adventure. Crafted to handle the toughest environments, their coolers are built to last. Ensure they keep up with any adventure. Their coolers are guaranteed to keep their contents cool for up to 7 days, but oftentimes much longer than that. As you can see, I got one right here next to me here on the set. You can gear up for your next outdoor adventure with Rugged Road coolers. They're reliable, durable, and built to be used. Rugged Road is your ultimate outdoor companion. Make sure you head to ruggedroadoutdoors.com. Again, that's ruggedroadoutdoors.com and use code DLLS for 10% off. Again, use code DLLS for 10% off Rugged Road coolers. Visit ruggedroadoutdoors.com today. As we continue here on the DLS Mavs post-game show, the Mavericks fall 110-105 to the Charlotte Hornets as the Mavericks now fall to 23-20 on the season. Now 2 games under 500 away from the American Airlines Center. They'll be back on the floor, back at home on Wednesday when they take on Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. But right now, we welcome in from WFAA Channel 8, sports anchor and my Mizzou brethren, Jonah Javad. Jonah, what's going on?
What's up, man? MIZ, the Mizzou basketball team is looking good these days.
I know. Shout out to our Tigers handling business.
We can just talk about that instead.
I mean, low-key, the Tigers have been playing some good basketball. Shout out to the SEC. The SEC's always been tough.
Do they have any draft prospects that might be around? I don't know. Are we still being optimistic? Maybe the 17th pick in the first round.
Absolutely not.
It feels like it feels like some Mavericks fans are ready to go play capture the flag, but I don't think they'll be bad enough to even do that anyway. But at the same time, just your thoughts on today's game with the Mavericks falling 110-105 to Charlotte. A difficult way to begin what is a difficult week for the Mavericks, knowing they got the Timberwolves, Thunder, and Boston coming up at the end of this week.
Yeah, I thought you guys, had a solid discussion about it. I mean, it hit on all the factors that went into that loss. For me, just kind of from, a perspective of maybe not covering every single game and doing a show over after every single game, it just seems like this team they could beat the best of them and they can lose to the worst of them. And that's probably not a good formula for success, but I'm trying to not overreact because it's just, mid-January and they're still down one of the best players in all of basketball. And so really the period without Luka, it's really a treading water phase. It's like, can we just, get some wins, not lose total ground in the West? You figured they were going to take a tumble or slide, but I think as a fan, you're probably hoping that they stack the W's. You go out, you beat that OKC team, and then you think, okay, Charlotte should be an easy W, and then the Hornets just can't miss from 3, and once again, not finishing quarter strong. And the injuries are just tough because you get to the fourth quarter, these guys are, kind of gassed. Gafford was awesome in that first half, but, Lively plays, maybe they can give a full 48. So an annoying loss, but it's the Mavericks, and I feel like we've seen this team do that a lot over the last few years. They'll lose to teams that they really have no business losing to, but then they can beat the best. So let's just kind of get to the tournament, get to the playoffs. That's really just the MO, and then worry about the rest from there.
Yeah, and this was supposed to be the DFW team that was the good team, or stars as well. But Dallas just coming off the finals run, and we know how the Dallas market. I know we have a lot of non-Dallas and international listeners, but just to go like briefly DFW centric. I mean, everybody around here understands that usually like the Cowboys take the shine until their season ends, and then more focus gets put onto the Stars and the Mavericks. And this was supposed to be the year that everybody's tuning into the Mavericks and seeing like, okay, what are they up to? Like, how exciting. They're off the finals, but they have new players. What are these players? And it's just the worst possible, outcome or scenario for this team to, not even the games they're playing, but just not to have the real team out there, to have, a team that feels half of very much treading water, very much, it just feels like we're saying the same thing over and over again about like, well, when they're healthy, they can be really good, but haven't even got a chance to learn how good they can be because there's been 13 or 14 games that all five preferred starters have been out there. And sure, they've won most of them and they've been really good, but the most difficult team they've played in that, with all five guys healthy, the Houston Rockets, which good team. But I don't think there's another team in the top 10 of the NBA that they've played with a fully healthy roster. And you're just left like wondering like, when is this going to end? And how can we even know how good this team is if they're not playing other good teams with their version of a good team?
Yeah. I mean, to your point about, the Cowboys and kind of the Mavs seeding, I guess, in the, DFW sports hierarchy, I'll peel back the curtain for your viewers and listeners a little bit because, I work in sports for the local ABC affiliate in Dallas. And so pretty much the whole fall and, up until the Cowboy season ends, it's just a lot of football. It's football. And I'm an NBA junkie at heart. I grew up a humongous basketball fan. And I try as much as I can to keep tabs on everything in the NBA. But when you have to keep tabs on college football and NFL and also, have a life and stay sane, it's hard. You're just trying to manage as much of all of this information at once. And so there was this running joke when Rick Carlisle was the head coach of the Mavericks was once the Cowboy season ended, pretty much like that next practice, there would be 30 cameras and all the reporters would show up and he would always crack some wise remark about like, oh yeah, we play sports too. And
yeah, welcome Cowboys media, stuff like that. Yeah, I remember many of these quips.
Yeah, it's the second start to the Mavericks season. And then, I always kind of resented a little bit because like I wanted to be there. I would love to do that. But it's just, hard because we don't have, staffs of 400, deep to send 10 people to every game. So that is always funny to me because, I guess they kind of, always kind of understood that. But for Mavericks fans, I don't think they necessarily care that the Cowboys season ends or not. I've always seemed to find that Cowboys and Mavs fans aren't necessarily like this. Mavs fans are here and the Cowboys fans are doing their own thing. But yeah, it's tough because you come off the Cowboys season, you're like, all right, what can I, look forward to? And it's like, oh, Lively's out. Quentin Grimes has actually been kind of nice this year. He's out. It's tough. They're just dealing with a bunch of injuries and you just have to make do until they're back on the floor. Stars are nice. Pretty good.
And I will say last time I was at a Mavs practice, there was not 30 cameras there. So, there's no reason to be. We go into these games, I think us here in these seats, looking for the result and what it means in the big picture. And maybe we'll learn a little bit more about a Quentin Grimes or a Najee Marshall. And Quentin Grimes wasn't even out there tonight. Like these younger players that are still not mysteries, but still people that we are, growing with, as in just terms of watching them and seeing what they're capable of, what they can do. Even those guys are missing now. So it's just,
It's been rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been really rough, man.
So for you, Jonah,
you don't know what you're getting yourself into right now, Jonah. you still have the choice to turn around.
I think he's knee deep in it already.
I don't know. I feel like I've watched a lot of bad basketball over the years, and the Mavs aren't really there yet. I mean, they've grown by leaps and bounds from what they were 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Obviously, they had some fundamental mistakes today where it just makes you shake your head and you're like, why are you doing that? But um, they're so much better, and I'm actually really excited to see what they look like once these guys come back. And I know that's such a stupid excuse of like, you can only play the guys you have, but it's like, yeah, it's a star-driven league. You need your stars to win games. You need your stars to win championships. And I think what they learned a lot from that finals run, as you guys all know, is you need a deep roster. And the Celtics were loaded. I mean, they just, it didn't matter who they brought off the bench, and they were just kept coming. And it feels like the Mavs have really put together a nice, depth core. But yeah, that depth is now having to start, and you're really going to your reserves. It's tough. But I've been impressed with some of these newcomers that, I had heard positive things about. Someone like Najee Marshall. I had heard that he could bring what the Mavs were kind of missing there on the wing. Quentin Grimes has really impressed me with his ability to distribute the ball. I always just thought he was kind of just a pure three-point shooter, but his assist numbers have been really strong, and just needing to see all of them for an extended period of time, because it just feels like it's been a carousel and one hops off, one hops on. And, when that will be, weeks away until we see everybody together. But I'm optimistic. I feel like this is a good time to buy low on the Mavericks. I wouldn't be jumping off the bandwagon by any means.
Last thing before we let you go, you kind of started to allude to it a little bit. Where do they go from here? Obviously, as we inch closer to the All-Star break, what do you believe is your outlook for this team as we move closer to the All-Star break?
Yeah, it feels like they need to bring somebody in at the trade deadline. I mean, that's probably pretty obvious who that is. There's definitely levels of talent, right? And they're really going to go after, somebody like Brandon Ingram or Zion. Can that actually work? Or would they try to go to those lower rungs? Are they going to try to get like a Cameron Johnson or a Kevin Huerter? What do they really need? And I guess that's probably up for debate, right? Like, and why these injuries play a factor is you don't know what they look like full strength, so you don't know what their biggest hole and needs are. Right now it's guard because they've got injuries, but when they're all healthy, is that a need? So I feel like you can never have enough three-point shooters and wing defenders in this league, and they could probably use someone of that ilk. So yeah, the deadline would be a good place to start. Other contenders are going to be making moves and trying to get better, and you guys know how strong this Western Conference is year in and year out, especially now. So it's an arms race. You got to get somebody in. As good as their offseason moves were, they're going to need to make more if they want to make a realistic shot at the NBA Finals again.
Who's winning the national title game tonight?
How about Notre Dame in an upset?
Oh, okay. I think Notre
Just
Dame
strictly because I love their uniforms. The gold helmets are just love it.
I hope Marcus Freeman wins the game because he got a whole bunch of kids to feed, and he needs all the money he can get. So the more games he can win, more chances he can win, feed that family. Jonah, we appreciate the time as always. You can catch Jonah on WFAA Channel 8, part of the super team led by my guy Joe Trahan at WFAA. Jonah, appreciate the time, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks, Jonah.
That's our guy, Jonah Javad of WFAA Channel 8, sports anchor for them. Coming up next year on the Dallas Mavericks postgame show, it's time to dial up the Stein line with our national NBA insider, Marc Stein, the latest when it comes to what's happening with the Mavericks potentially headed toward the trade deadline, and more of your comments as well here on the postgame show. Coming up next on the Dallas Mavericks postgame show.
If you're in the chat right now and your name is Meredith, Jerry, Nathan, Nate, two different people, Alec, Steve, Tim, or Russ, well, that means that over the weekend or into today, you signed up to become a diehard. So shout out to you. You're a great person. Diehard is what we call someone who is part of our community here at DLLS Sports. Everything that we're doing on YouTube here is free, all the pregame and postgame and all that stuff. But if you want to join a community where you can talk to us and other diehards outside of just the YouTube comment section, well, hey, becoming a diehard is the thing for you. If you scan that thing below, the QR code in the corner, or click the link in the description, or go to alldlls.com/diehard for less than $7 a month. You can financially support what we're doing here at DLLS Sports. In exchange, we give you a free shirt. You get to read all the written content, all the breaking news, the features, the analysis, the rumors, the goss on our website.
Did you just join gossip?
That is a thing. We've been through this before. We've been through this before
Okay, all right, keep
on
going.
this show.
All right, keep going.
From all the writers, including Tim Cato on the Mavs, you get to join the DLS Diehard Discord server, and I'm going to need the Just Positive Vibes channel after this game. You also get your physical Diehard card, and you get a discount on any other merch in addition to the
Physical
free shirt you get.
diehard card.
That's right, Mark.
And you get a discount on events, and we are doing an event.
Woo!
There are, at last count, only 9 tickets remaining for our Mavs at Celtics watch party at Cosm on Feb 6th. The game starts at 6:30.
Am I going to be allowed in?
We'll see. We shall see.
Sounds like we need to get down to 8 tickets.
Only 9 tickets remain. Cosm, if you haven't been, it's like a giant dome. It's like watching a sports game
It's
on
an
like
immersive
an immersive like
sports
IMAX
dome.
screen kind of.
That's
It's
right.
like it's. I cannot wait to go. It looks incredible.
I've been there twice, and I back up the hype.
Well, heck yeah.
I co-sign the hype.
Heck yeah. So we will be there on February 6th. If you want to get a ticket, click the link in the description if Tanner can paste it in time. And if not, then you go to alldls.com and find the event, and it'll be there. We'll get the link in the chat soon. There it is. There's the link in the chat.
There
Thank
it
you,
is.
Tanner. Hey, God bless.
alldls.com. Become a diehard member today. Join the over 13,500 strong subscribers here at DLLS Sports. Tag us on social media and let us know you become part of our DLLS Sports family. As we continue here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show, Mavericks fall to the Charlotte Hornets 110-105 in disappointing fashion on the road, dropping to 23-20 on the season. Unfortunately, now 4-10 in their last 14 games since Christmas Day. But now we dial up the Stein line here on the DLLS Mavs postgame show as the Mavericks get ready, Mark, to take on the Timberwolves back at home here on Wednesday on the first night of a back-to-back. Then they welcome in Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is back, of course, from his wrist injury that he missed the game against the Dallas Mavericks with. And then on Saturday, they return home to take on the reigning NBA champion Boston Celtics on national television.
Please, I hope whatever you say is better news than what Kevin just said.
Well,
that was scary.
It gets worse because if you look at the standings here real quick, just to set up our guy Mark, because the Mavericks may need some help coming the trade deadline. As of this very moment, of course, the Mavericks are 7th in the West at 23-20, but they are now tied in the loss column with the Timberwolves, Kings, Suns, and Golden State Warriors, all of which have 20 losses at this point, which means the Mavericks are separated from the 11th spot by just one game, with all those guys with all those teams, I should say, tied with 20 losses in the loss column. Which
I'm going to move to the mountains and become a hermit.
which gets us to our guy Marc Stein. Mark, what do the Mavs go from here? A lot of folks calling for the Mavericks to make something happen at the trade deadline. All right, Jonah Javadis even said, maybe the Mavericks need to do something at the deadline. What's the temperature of this organization when it comes to the trade deadline on February 6th?
Well, look, I think we know Nico Harrison has been here for 3 trade deadlines, and we've seen at least one trade at every deadline. So the assumption with the Mavs is always they're going to do something. But the difference between deadline number 4 of the Nico Harrison era and the first 3, the Mavericks faced varying degrees of desperation at all previous 3 deadlines, and especially last season. Like, they knew they had to make moves. They were deep in the talks to get Kuzma. Kuzma told the Wizards actually went to Kyle Kuzma, even though he doesn't have a no trade clause. The Wizards went to him and said, do you want to stay? Do you want to go? He said, I'd rather stay. And the Mavs immediately pivoted and made 2 trades for Gafford and PJ Washington. This trade deadline is a completely different situation because Luka is still out. We know Luka most likely is not going to be back with his team until at some point in February. Nico Harrison recently went on the new Mavs Step Back pod via Substack with our pal Dalton Trigg and flat out said the Mavs are not going to make a short-term trade in reaction to injury because, again, when you don't even know when Luke is going to be back and how long it's going to take him to get back to full speed, I don't know why people would want them to. The Mavs have very limited trade assets left at this point. They've got 2 firsts they can move. They do have a couple movable contracts, but do you want them rushing out making a trade when the team is not even full strength? I wouldn't. Like, I don't think there's an easy fix out there that's just going to repair them now. Now, everybody says, Herb Jones, go get Herb Jones. Go. Yeah, no, the Mavs would love Herb Jones. The Mavs are undeniably fans of Herb Jones, but there's multiple obstacles working against a Herb Jones trade. Number one being, to this point, the Pelicans have consistently discouraged teams from going after him. Doesn't mean they won't ultimately cave and trade him, but it's going to cost a lot to trade for Herb Jones, realistically more than the Mavs could offer, even if they were willing to do it. And on top of all that, Herb Jones is out right now with the labrum tear in his right shoulder. It's his non-shooting shoulder, but like, we don't even know when Herb Jones is going to be able to play again. So I think the Herb Jones conversation, I think it would just, it's time to move off that, because like, there are way too many factors against being able to get him. Now, in recent days, there's been a suggestion that the Mavericks are dangling Daniel Gafford, or, you know, whatever word you want to use, dangling, shopping. The way it's been painted to me is that it would be a misnomer to say they are shopping Daniel Gafford. Because, look, teams would, I think there are teams out there that would like Gafford. There are a lot of teams out there that want big men. Big men are in demand. But are there certain trades that the Mavericks would be willing to surrender Daniel Gafford? I'm sure that's the case. And getting a wing, upgrading their wing defense is certainly something that the Mavericks would like to do. But if you trade Gafford, you've severely weakened your center rotation. And we know that Derek Lively, as well as he has played and as highly as he is thought of, he does miss time. So are you prepared to give up Gafford to maybe address one void, but create another one if there's no proven big man behind Lively? So it's just, in the situation the Mavericks are right now, I don't think it's easy for them to make a move. I will not be surprised at all if they come up with something. There are still 17 days to go before the trade deadline, and the Mavericks have been very aggressive under Nico Harrison, so it wouldn't shock me if they manufacture some kind of move, but I think they're going to proceed with much more caution at this deadline than we've seen in the previous three. Because again, this team is just not right. I mean, and it's not just not having Luka. There are too many injuries today. How many key players were missing? Luka, Grimes, Lively, Exum. We still haven't seen for 1 second this season. Hardy, like, it's just, there is no trade deadline fix that can compensate for that many rotation players missing. So
that was just as bad as what Kevin said before you started.
Well, do you want me to lie?
I had one simple favor to ask you.
No, we want the truth, the unvarnished truth when it comes to this team in the trade deadline. Jason Kidd saying prior to today's game that Dante Exum is still a ways away, even though he's working his way back. He's still a ways away as far as coming back to this team. I'm sure.
Can I ask a follow-up?
Yeah.
Of course you can.
So if I'm trying to follow the breadcrumbs here, Mark, because, you know, everyone speaks in riddles, right? Sometimes. So if we should believe, because I think we should believe that the Mavs will make a move, but we should also believe that they're not necessarily willing to include Gafford because it's kind of whack-a-mole at that point. Like, yeah, sure, we get that, but now we got. So then how, or maybe not even who, like, how is it possible for them to get a guy that's good enough to play in the rotation without giving up someone that's also in the rotation?
That's the thing. I don't know that it is.
Yeah.
I mean, that is they had to use up a lot of trade capital to get Washington and Gafford in here a year ago. Those moves worked out pretty much as well as they possibly can. I mean, they didn't lead to a championship, but, you know, on April 15th-ish, when the playoffs were about to start, I don't remember many of us, me included, saying the Mavs are about to make a finals run. I mean, they went to the finals after making those two trades. So it's, again, like, that's the consistent. When I ask about trade stuff, that's what I keep hearing back, is that, would they like to do something? Yes. Can they do something given what they have in the trade cupboard? It might not be possible. And as well, and I want to, you know, you guys know I'm a huge Najee Marshall fan. the knife has been, he's adapted really well here. But it is true. The one thing this team really misses from if you compare it to last year's team, they do miss the length and skills on the wing that Derrick Jones Jr. has in terms of guarding opposition scorers. That's what they miss. But all teams want an extra wing defender, and a good, not just an extra one, a good one.
Right.
So it's like, do you give up? So we know they have 2 first-round picks to trade. Gafford. Now, Maxi Kleba's on an expiring contract. You could move him if you had to. Jaden Hardy, because his, normally when you sign an extension, you got to wait 6 months, but his extension was small enough that Jaden Hardy actually is trade eligible immediately if they needed to move him. But I've seen people throw out Grimes has played too well. You can't trade him. And
I was going to ask you, but I was going to say that it does feel like it does feel like if they wanted to make a tangible upgrade in terms of wing defense, and quite frankly, I think at least for smaller wings guards, I think he's their best defender on those type players. But it does feel like, they are obviously going into the summer where they would have to extend him as a restricted free agent. And he does not seem preferred to close games over, say, Klay Thompson or, quite frankly, often Najee Marshall. Maybe some of that is that he just pairs better with Luka, and Luka's been out a lot. For example, I think, some of the things he does really well is coming off, screens and handoffs and things like that. And that's something when Kyrie's on the court, he's using a lot of those as well. I personally wouldn't do it. I like Quentin Grimes a lot. I think he's been fantastic. But the more I look at this roster, just trying to put myself in their mind and what they're thinking is that, if Grimes helped you get a player that would close games for you or had a chance to close games for you and upgraded your perimeter defense, all I'm saying, again, this is not my endorsement of that idea necessarily. I am saying that surely he has some value around the league with the way he's played, with him just being 24. And maybe
whoever trades for him, though, would have to do so wanting to extend him. Right? Which does that complicate it, or does that make it even better?
I mean, it probably means it's likelier you're trading him to a team that isn't trying to win now, right? Like a team that's willing to say, yeah, we like this guy.
I think the other thing though here is like wing defenders who have really good wing defenders are as coveted as shooters. So it's like the price tag to get, like, again, Herb Jones. I think
that's why people are stuck on him. Because he's the only clear guy that was maybe movable, who is like all defense level.
And when you hear the chatter, it's like New Orleans ain't just giving him up for some seconds. Like Herb Jones is going
pricey.
If they trade him at some point, they're gonna get a nice return for Herb Jones,
right?
And they should for an All-NBA defensive player.
The Mavs are going to have to decide how much they're willing to give up. But I mean, that's what made Derrick Jones Jr. very unique, is that, they got him for a minimum. I mean, that was a home run. That was a grand slam. I mean, they got him for the minimum, and he, outperformed that number by miles and miles and miles. And you saw the way they approached it in the offseason. The Mavs basically set with, an internal limit. They were like $327 is what they were willing to pay for Derrick Jones Jr. Derrick Jones wanted more. He got more from the Clippers. They were able to get Najee Marshall at that same price. So they pivoted to Najee. And like I said, I think Najee Marshall has been a very welcomed contributor to this team and does a lot of things and is more versatile offensively than Derrick Jones Jr. But it is true. You cannot deny they miss Derrick Jones Jr.'s wing defense. They miss it, and that is a void on this team. But, it's a great, we'll see if something comes up where, like, you have to surrender Gafford. I mean, that's going to be a fascinating call, because you could make that trade, and then what are we going to sit here and say? The Mavs don't have enough behind Lively. I mean, and then every show will be that they're not big enough as a team, and they're putting too much on 20-year-old Derek Lively.
But let me thank our television on for joining us here on the program. We'll have our pregame show on Wednesday, 5:45 p.m. right here on DLS Sports as the Mavericks welcome in Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So make sure you tune in. We'll also have our regular show tomorrow as well at 1 p.m. right here on DLS Sports. As we continue here on the DLS Mavs postgame show. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Bobby.
No, you're good. If they do find a way to trade for an impactful perimeter defender, then that almost surely means that you're just not going to play Klay anymore down the stretch of games unless you're going to bench PJ. Because ideally,
with some Mavs fans have low-key kind of wanted to begin with.
Yeah, but that could be just kind of weird. That could be kind of weird. You know, it could be weird. Now, Klay, whenever he hasn't been on the floor in late in games, always seems into it. It's never seemed to be an issue. He's like cheering and standing up and clapping and all that stuff. But it's just kind of, you know, ideally you have Luka and Kyrie available, and you probably want your 5 out there or whatever, depending on the opponent. And you're going to have PJ out there, so it's who's it going to be? And is that guy going to start? Because, like, again, let's take this one step further. If they are going to put the resources in and demonstrate the courage to make a big move for a really big-time perimeter defender, are you going to do that to bring him off the bench? Like,
no, not necessarily.
It's just there's a lot more that goes into it than just this ain't 2K. There's a lot more that goes into it, and obviously the Klay deal was a huge thing this summer for the organization, for Klay, for Nico, for the whole deal. There would be a lot going on. A whole lot more is going on than we think it is, or whatever.
Sure. Well, we appreciate all of you joining us here on the DLS Mavs post-game show. Unfortunately, the Mavericks fall today, 110-105 to the Charlotte Hornets. If you missed anything, you can go back and watch it here on YouTube, or you can download and subscribe to our podcast wherever you get your podcasts free.
One crazy thing, though, we didn't, just real quick, just to throw in at the end, like the Hornets have won 4 of 5. Like they actually are playing a little better. I know that is less than 0% consolation, but maybe we all just, you know,
got them at a bad time for sure.
I assume that this was a guarantee worthy game, and like I can't believe they lost, but like, man, I mean the Hornets won 4 out of 5.
This game really had something for everybody. It's for the math guys, they went minus 33 on threes. For the stars, Kyrie played great, and it was almost there.
Daniel Gafford had a career game today.
Yeah,
the Hornets just lost Brandon Miller to a long-term wrist injury too. I mean, this.
I was gonna say it's tough. It's tough to obviously Dallas has all their injuries, and you know Charlotte just traded away. But you know Charlotte just traded away Nick Richards. They
lost Brandon.
They were missing Brandon Miller, who I think is fair to say their second best player. No, I mean objectively they didn't have their second best player out there. So,
well, the player that they got back in that trade. Josh Okogie scored 2 fewer points than Klay today, and 2 fewer points than Spencer Dinwiddie today.
Ooh, boy!
So it's it's a bummer. But there were role player mess ups. There was coaching drama. There's turnovers and bad shots. There was something for everybody. So whatever you want to be mad about today, this is your Super Bowl.
Yes.
But Kevin, we flush it because we move on tomorrow. And we're doing it all over again, baby.
We got our regular show tomorrow at 1 p.m. Then we will have our pregame show on Wednesday at 5:45 p.m. right here on DLS Sports as the Mavericks welcome in Anthony Edwards and the Minnesota Timberwolves. So make sure you tune in tomorrow at 1 p.m. for our regular DLS Mavs podcast. That's our National NBA Insider, Marc Stein. That's our Mavericks analyst, Bobby Curler. That is our Mavericks beat writer, Tim Cato. I'm your host, Kevin Gray. We are DLS Mavs. We'll talk to you tomorrow at 1 p.m. right here on DLS Sports. Y'all be good. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.